Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
This show is brought to you by Audible. They are the leading provider of spoken audio information and entertainment. You know I'm a huge Audible fan because you can listen to audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. Whether you're at the beach, the gym, or stuck in traffic, there's nothing quite like Audible. Go to audiblepodcast.com/Lutz and sign up today. You are listening to the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1230 WBZT. Well, this one is called How I Learned to Love the Shutdown and Stop Worrying About Default. And who else but Andy Hoffman is with us to explore this intriguing concept. Now, Andy, welcome back.
Always a pleasure. Back from Vegas and very tired.
Yeah, so the shutdown, people will have more time to go gamble in Vegas, right?
Right. Well, that's assuming there is one. I will bet anything. I shouldn't say anything. I will put the odds very high that just like the fiscal cliff deal, in which they dramatically cut back the sequester spending cuts to the point where they really didn't cut anything at all. They did that on New Year's Eve because it was New Year's Day when it would have kicked in. So don't worry, they'll do something in the middle of the night tonight, or else there will be literally 1 million government employees furloughed tomorrow. And an economy that's already collapsing, it's going to make things dramatically worse. And of course, it's going to further decrease the credibility of the government and its ability to keep interest rates low with quantitative easing.
So you just think that that this cliff, it's a cliff too high, and they're just not going to take the chance of driving off of it?
No, as I wrote today, you'll see the article pretty shortly. Big government itself is a Ponzi scheme, just like fiat currency. In fact, the two are interrelated. The fact is, once it becomes this big, it has to continue getting bigger. The U.S. government is now by far the largest employer in the United States. So it can't shut down because it must keep paying people. It also is paying entitlements to more than half of the United States. So it must keep paying benefits. So they can wrangle all they want about whatever policy issues they want, and they do it all the time. But of course, they're going to keep printing the money. And the fact that, honestly, I'm not sure if the Republicans can make themselves look worse than they have in recent years. But shut up already with Obamacare. No one hates it more than me, but you lost. You had your chance and you lost. You let Supreme Court Justice Roberts, the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, a Republican Chief Justice who was just appointed, he is the one who was the deciding vote allowing Obamacare to be constitutional. So shut up, guys. You lost. And you're not going to bring down the entire country over it. People are just going to laugh at you, and they're going to vote more for the Democrats because they're so pissed that you won't shut up about this issue. It's going to destroy America. I agree, but you're not going to shut the government down over it.
Well, it's just one more thing to destroy America. America was well on its way to being destroyed before Obamacare got passed, and it's just speeding up the process a little bit.
Absolutely.
Let's face it.
It's just making the trajectory get steeper.
Yeah, it's really not changing anything. Let's face it. I mean, it's just fiddling while Rome burns. Let's face it.
Well, put it this way. I wrote an article a year ago or so called The Worst for America and the Best for Precious Metals, I believe it's called. And essentially it says that everything Congress does is bad for America. If they have a choice about whether to get Obama passed or not, they're going to pass it. If they have a choice about whether to go to war or not, they're going to go to war. And trust me, they still want to go to war as badly as ever. They always make the wrong choice. And in the case of this shutdown, whatever they choose overnight will be the worst choice. And the best one, of course, for the prospects for precious metals.
Yeah, amazing that they can be that blind and that incompetent and that oblivious to what's really going on in the real world.
Well, but that's the nature of a system where you have career politicians. I mean, when the nation was smaller, we had businessmen who did politics on the side. I'm on my HOA board. It's not my permanent job. I don't get paid for it. I just help the community because I want it to be the best I can. The people in charge of these big countries like ours, their job is to be reelected, and all they care about is doing what it takes to get votes, which in the case of a fiat currency backed society is to print as much money as possible.
And give out the goodies to all their friends and their friends' friends and all of that. And then let somebody else worry about the damage when the inevitable occurs.
Yeah, and of course, at politically expedient times to suddenly care about certain issues, like when there's a government shutdown or debt ceiling looming, all of a sudden they care about Obamacare. Just like Obama, all of a sudden cared about gay marriage passionately right before the election. Or my favorite is literally probably the single most destructive law ever passed in this nation, that is until Obamacare, was George W. Bush's American Dream Down Payment Act of December 2003. Coincidentally, right in front of the 2004 reelection campaign, and coincidentally, right before the final blow-off of the real estate bubble that destroyed the world.
Yeah, not to mention Sarbanes-Oxley and the whole bunch of them that were destructive and anti-capitalist, anti-entrepreneur, and it's been, like you said, one right after the next, all destructive to the economic system, all conducive, all pro-gold in the long run.
Not to mention the repeal of Glass-Steagall, which again, 1999, right before a presidential election, goosed the stock markets. You know, that's what they do.
That is what they do. And the only good thing, if you could call it a good thing, is that the rest of the world is kind of racing us off the cliff.
It is incredible. And again, it's all interrelated. You know, I wrote my piece, most important piece article I've ever written about the inflation being exported to the world. The world accepted the dollar as the reserve currency back in 1971, and this is how we're paying it back, by creating massive inflation that goes around the world. And there's nothing they could do other than to print money themselves. And they'll keep doing it until everyone is destroyed.
Yeah, and they're well on the way to destruction now, aren't they?
Yeah, we were just talking about what's going on in Italy right now. You think people in America are stupid. They reelected this Berlusconi guy after he had just been convicted of tax fraud, which has since been upheld by the courts. Can you imagine if Obama had just been convicted of a felony and then he got reelected? That's what they just did in Italy. And now this idiot, this monster, is pulling the entire government down. They'll have a government shutdown because they'll be beating each other up in the aisles because this idiot is taking the government down because the stupid people reelected him. Incredible what's going on around the world.
Well, it's kind of a case of our thief is better than your thief.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm having a hard time even following that one. It's just so off the charts. But, you know, where are we finding? I mean, I was just reading this morning about India that, you know, they were increasing the tariffs more on gold and silver. Oh, my God. The smuggling is out of control. I just read that Indian physical silver demand is still up 100% this year. Despite all of this, you can't stop the will of the people with these ridiculous draconian laws. And by the way, speaking of extremely bullish things for precious metals, did anyone read this morning that the Chinese government is broadly opening up the gold markets and allowing, I mean, I think hundreds more banks to import it. And there's going to be so many more buyers in China as a result of this law, which, you know, if we didn't have a gold cartel attacking like they are all day today, this is the kind of news that will make gold explode. And ultimately, of course, it will make physical demand go off the charts.
And will mean the demise of the paper gold market as well.
Yeah, it's just hard to believe. I wrote that article a few weeks back about how the COMEX registered inventory was plummeting, and it could be gone any day. There were 760,000 ounces back then, just a few weeks ago. Now there's just 670,000 ounces. I mean, it's amazing. There's literally just $1 billion worth of registered gold inventory and $1 billion worth of registered silver inventory on the entire COMEX, a measly $1 billion. That's about as much as the Fed prints in a minute. And somehow they're still able, I mean, on a day when they're talking about government shutdown, to take gold down $12 at the COMEX Open with nothing else going on. It is amazing how anyone is not scooping up any last piece of physical available in the world. And I think that moment is going to come very soon. And on the matter of supply and demand, a few weeks back, I said, based on what they've done to the miners, I think that gold and silver production are going to fall 15 to 25% in the next couple of years. Well, I've just now seen 3 or 4 different analysts say the same thing. John Hathaway just came out today. He said, I went to the Denver Gold Show. I went to the Precious Metal Summit. I now believe that we're going to be 15 or 20% down in the next 2 or 3 years. Can you imagine 15 to 20% drop in a commodity that's already in scarce supply?
That is pretty remarkable, and nobody seems too upset about it, do they?
Well, as long as the cartel maintains there's this just maniacal control, which they started basically in April, the majority of the sleeping Westerners won't care. The Easterners are buying it hand over fist, and eventually the Westerners will all buy it at once. Well, they'll all try to when there's nothing left to buy.
And that day is moving ever closer, isn't it?
Of course.
Yeah, what other good things are happening in the world here, Andy?
Oh, the debt ceiling? How about that?
Oh, I forgot all about that with all the shutdown talk.
Yeah, someone emailed me today saying something like, I'm being disingenuous to readers. The Republicans can cut spending if they want. And I'm going, no, they can't. They can only cut spending if the Democrats agree with them. And they will never cut spending. They're just posturing right now just to, get some PR about Obamacare. But ultimately, they're going to spend the money. They always spend the money. It's a Ponzi scheme. They have to keep printing. They have to keep spending. And
they're just as guilty of it as the Republicans. Let's face it. As the Democrats. They're co-conspirators in this conspiracy to bring the country down. And if I remember correctly, we had a question from a listener that we're going to answer up next on the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz with Andy Hoffman on 1230 WBZT. I want to welcome our new sponsor, Audible. I've been listening to audiobooks from them for over 5 years now. I am a huge Audible fan. In fact, I've bought multiple platinum memberships. Platinum membership, you buy 25 audiobooks at a time. I just got done listening to the first 3 or 4 books of the Jack Reacher series, the one you probably saw or maybe you didn't in the theater, Tom Cruise movie. Just a wonderful book, wonderful series, expertly narrated, and so many times I'm in the car, I get sick of listening to music or news or the radio. I just put my iPod on, plays the book, and makes that trip go by so quickly. To me, this is one of the great things of the information revolution of the internet, is that you can get over 100,000 books on your iPad or iPod or iPhone instantly. Another thing that they have is courses on Audible, the Modern Scholars series. And I've listened to lectures about World War I, Shakespeare, nanotechnology, detective novels. It's so enlightening. To me, Audible is a must-have killer app for the iPhone, the iPad, for my computer, wherever I am. I'm always downloading these books. Like I say, they're a sponsor, so check them out. They've got a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial membership. Just sign up at www.audiblepodcast.com/Lutz, Lutz. Again, audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. Sign up today. Like I say, this to me is a dream sponsor. These are exactly the types of things that I like to pass on to you because I'm such a fanatical, over-the-top Audible user. 5-6 years I've been listening, hundreds of books. I used to think I was a well-read person, and it's a little strange when somebody asks you, did you read that book? And you have to say, well, somebody actually read it to me, but they actually did a better job than I could have, so I don't mind it. But my friend Sean Perger up in Vancouver, he listens to almost as many as I do, and he can't get enough. I know you're going to love this company, love their service. I do. So check them out. audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. We are back on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz. Got Andy Hoffman here. It's 1230 WBZT. So we got a question from one of you, and he's going to read it. What was that question, Andy?
Yes, he said, since industrial demand for silver accounts for more than 50% of all demand, wouldn't the decline over the last few years indicate a significant drop in industrial demand, especially in light of increased investment demand for the metal? A few silver bulls have stated the real price of silver in large size is much higher than $10 more than the quotes we see. I don't know. I have not heard that. If so, wouldn't the large industrial buyers want to earn can we go back? This is just too much.
All right, hold on.
I'll read the first part of the question because he's just rambling about a whole bunch.
Hold on. Let's start it over again.
Okay.
All right.
I'll just read.
All right. Let me just start the intro again.
Okay.
And we're back on the financialsurvivalnetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz, 1230 WBZT. We're with Andy Hoffman, and we've got a question from one of you. Andy, you want to read it?
Yeah, the question is, since industrial demand for silver accounts for more than 50% of all silver demand, wouldn't the decline in silver over the last few years indicate a significant drop in industrial demand, especially in light of increased investment demand? Well, on paper, it sounds like a good question, but the prices are lower because the government has been knocking the prices down. I mean, I'm not sure I can be that any more clear about it, and I'm not sure it could be any more obvious to anyone with two eyes. Or one eye, 1 ear. It's so obvious. And the fact is that industrial demand hasn't declined at all. I mean, even Jeff Christian's CPM group will tell you that. And considering the economy is so bad, it should tell you just how indispensable the particular uses for silver are. Silver is not like copper where you build houses with it. Silver is a metal with some of the most useful characteristics. Like it's the best conductor of electricity out there. So it's used in almost everything, like iPhones, you name it, and in trace amounts. It's used in medical for infections in trace amounts. So it's indispensable, and it in fact has not gone down at all. But the fact is, the reason that silver prices have gone up over the years is not because of industrial demand. All the industrial demand has done is serve to suck up supply that gets consumed and just makes the total supply less. It's investment demand that has made the price go up. It is investment demand that will move the price in the future. End of story. And when the price goes down, it's because the government is knocking it down. I'm not sure I could be any more clear. I'm sure the mining companies couldn't be any more clear that the cost of production of silver is pushing $30 per ounce right now. And I'm going to say that again, $30 an ounce. The price on the paper COMEX is $21.73. That's why there were $22 billion of mining write-offs last quarter, and there's going to be more write-offs this quarter, and now you're going to start to see them writing off reserves. The industry cannot survive here. I cannot be more clear that production is going to fall like you've never seen any metal fall in the history of metals in the next couple of years. And it's going to happen while the investment demand increases exponentially.
So when the prices really start to go up, at some point, a lot of people are going to be cashing in grandma's sterling silver, aren't they?
Yeah, I was asked at a conference yesterday about sterling silver. Is it worth it? Well, of course it's not worth it now because, just from a melt value and refining standpoint, I mean, you'll get almost nothing for it. But there will come a time where that, quote, scrap metal will be coming out en masse. And you know what? It won't mean a hill of beans. One, because no one's going to want to sell it. And B, because it's immaterial compared to the exploding investment demand. I just told you that Indian demand has doubled this year. This is the largest the largest silver buyer in the world, doubled this year with the government raising the tariffs from 5% to 10% and telling the banks they can't sell bullion at all. And that's just one country. That's India. In China, they have, I don't know about the silver numbers, but they have doubled their gold imports this year. I mean, double them in China. That is an incredible amount. That's an incremental 500 tons of gold. And yet we're supposed to believe that the paper price is lower. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, I like investing in barbarous relics, especially when the rest of the world isn't.
Yeah,
right.
It's, and, I really feel like I am ranting today because honestly, today's action has been so nauseating, starting with the Sunday night sentiment attack when gold went up to the 2:15 a.m. for the 85th time in 95 days, the COMEX, and then they smash again, and then it comes back again, and they hit it again and again and again. They are so terrified of what's going on that they will do anything to keep the media from talking about gold. The problem is they are literally destroying the supply. And if you sit there and you sit there and you hold your physical gold and silver, you're going to look up in a year or two, and there's not only going to be much higher prices, there's going to be nothing left to buy anywhere.
Yeah, well, people will be looking at those old x-rays in the doctor's offices. They're going to be scrounging for them. I don't remember how much they're worth, but there's something like an ounce in every pound or something of x-rays, old x-rays. And people were salvaging them before when silver went up to almost $50 the ounce. And then price collapsed. People forgot about the x-rays. But if you can find those old x-rays, the photo x-rays, get your hands on them and just hold on to them now. It's going to be worth your while.
I guess. What kind of world will it be? But who knows?
Well, maybe you'll be needing silver bullets to kill off all the zombies at the zombie apocalypse. I don't know. Do silver bullets just work on werewolves or vampires, or do they work on zombies as well? Central bankers they work on? Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
And by the way, people should remember, I can't emphasize enough, I'm marketing director at one of the largest bullion dealers in America. People do not sell anything to us. In 24 years, or let's go back to 15 years when we actually started selling precious metals, 1% of all of our business is people selling to us. 99% is people buying from us. And the people that do sell gold and silver to us, it's because they need the money to pay for something. We never, ever, ever get someone say, I'm selling because I'm worried about gold and silver prices. People just don't sell, and no one is selling today. So when you see gold and silver fall in the COMEX market, it's not because anyone is selling any of the real stuff. The real stuff is disappearing from the face of the earth, and it will be a short time, in my opinion, before there'll be none left to buy.
Yeah, interesting phenomena. What's the U.S. Mint sales? What have they looked like this year? They're way, way up, aren't they?
Well, the gold numbers are not way up. They've had their 1 and 2 largest months ever, January and April. But generally speaking, gold sales are not having a very good year. But silver sales are, and despite silver's down for the year 28%. And yet by far, and I mean by far, it's the U.S. Mint's biggest ever year for Silver Eagle sales. So what is that telling you? And I'm telling you that business at Miles Franklin and all the bullion dealers here in America has been extremely slow all summer, and yet still massive buying of Silver Eagles, which should tell you that it's the foreigners, those same people in the East, that are buying them all up.
Makes a lot of sense. And of course they're going there. And some educated Europeans and very few people in the U.S., maybe a few down in South America, but by far predominant demand is definitely coming from Asia. Make no mistake about it.
Absolutely, and it will continue to be until there's no more gold left, and then and only then will the Westerners start to get it. But there'll be nothing left for them to buy.
Yep. That, I'm afraid, is the truth, and yeah, it's going to be too late. I mean, I'm just looking at the euro going up, and it's just such a joke because Greece, again, is on the edge of anarchy, right?
Yeah, they're talking about a military coup like in Egypt, but the mainstream media doesn't seem to think this is a big deal. Remember, Greece has $500 billion of debt. These people that want to do the coup are people who do not want this debt to be paid. They want to renege on it. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Greece economy, a new high in Greek unemployment every month, including last month. When are people going to figure out that this country is not going to stay in the euro and they are not going to pay their debt?
Well, hope and change, hope and change works pretty good here. Some people even win elections on it, Andy.
Well, they all do. Well, you think George Bush said anything different? They may not have called it hope and change, or Clinton. They all say the same thing. But what change are we ever going to get? It's a fiat Ponzi scheme. The money printing will continue. The government will get stronger until the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, and we've been heading for this date with destiny for a lot of years, and it finally looks like we're really going to get there.
Yes, very sad.
Very sad. Avoidable.
California, though.
Yeah, it really was avoidable, but at this point, there's really no choice. Mm-hmm. So on that note, it's milesfranklin.com, and don't forget financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Got all our interviews there. Andy, as always, a pleasure. We will talk with you next week.
Absolutely.
All right, you be well. The show is brought to you by Audible. If you want to listen to it, Audible has it. Would you believe they've got over 100,000 titles in virtually every genre you can think of? And don't forget, you'll get a free audiobook and 30-day trial just for signing up today at audiblepodcast.com/Lutz. That's audiblepodcast.com/LUTZ.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.